Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Father Luke Mary Fletcher, and with me is my friend
John Paul Gutschke. I am the project manager here at the Blue Army Shrine and also the in-resident filmmaker and I guess now CFR in training.
That's right. Brother Pius was unable to make it again today, so we thank John Paul for stepping in. And we were just having a conversation, and in the subway in New York City, sometimes you'll see a guy who's like a one-man band where he's singing and every limb is playing a different instrument. That's kind of John Paul here.
Yep.
So we're grateful. So John Paul, this is going to be great.
Yes.
I have a goal today. We want to talk about, obviously, Pope Leo.
Yes.
I want to talk about Our Lady of Fatima. We're coming from the Fatima Shrine. I want to talk about St. Padre Pio. We need to get him in, right? Our spiritual father. And also Lord of the Rings. That's kind of my goal. I want to get those topics in every time I speak about anything.
You can't go wrong with that lineup.
So we're here a few days in of the pontificate of the new first American Pope,
Yes.
Pope Leo XIV. And of course, there's been a lot of fun with different friends of his being interviewed. Of course, he has two older brothers who've been doing lots of interviews. They're a little edgy and kind of fun and funny. There's evidence of him going to the World Series with the White Sox. They found footage of him in the crowd. And there's a local pizzeria where I guess he just had pizza as early as last year. And of course, the owner makes this pun. He had pepperoni pizza instead of pepperoni. Going to Dairy Queen to get popsicles, and so
Going to Popeyes.
Well, yes, exactly. I think even the Twitter account of Popeyes did say Pope Yes or whatever.
Nice, yes.
So that all of that's been kind of fun, and obviously the memes started immediately with all these kind of fun things. And so I think we're all still just kind of in shock, and kind of people are wondering all sorts of details about, what's he going to do? And so just to note that already a few days in, he's kind of making it clear he wants to see his pontificate as being in continuity with Pope Francis, with Pope Benedict, with Pope John Paul II, John Paul I, Paul VI, all the way back to Leo XIII, this kind of beautiful, encouraging idea that whereas sometimes the media wants to pit this Pope against that Pope or whatever, and he's kind of saying, no, we're kind of in continuity with Vatican II, but also the gospel and our Lord Jesus Christ. And so John Paul, he actually went on record already giving an initial explanation as to why he chose the name Leo XIV. I guess the night before the conclave, he had a phone call with one of his brothers who said, what name should I take? And one of the brothers said, don't take Leo because it'll be the 13th, not realizing there was already a Leo XIII. So he ends up taking Leo XIV. And he said to the other cardinals that the reason why, and this is going to be kind of like a touchstone for our topic today, that Pope Leo XIII had kind of been known as a number of things, so the Rosary Pope, and he had issued this document on the new things, Rerum Novarum, kind of beginning the modern social teaching of the Catholic Church. And so the new Pope Leo makes reference to that, and that Pope Leo XIII, back in the late 1800s, had issued this document to kind of address issues that were happening in the cultures with the Industrial Revolution,
Right.
And how it was leading to kind of a disrespect for the dignity of human persons, and kind of bringing the Catholic faith and the gospel to kind of bear like a correction or like a warning for kind of the things that were happening and how people were being almost like used as cogs in the machine. So it was a correction on socialism and maybe like unbridled capitalism. And it was kind of this interesting thing. And then the new Pope Leo says, well, maybe in his pontificate, we're looking at a new industrial revolution, by which I think he's talking about kind of like the internet and kind of the way things are happening in different, slave factories in different countries. And then the danger of AI. So like a very kind of timely, modern, kind of topic of the day. And then, but with the idea of, and this is what I find so interesting, what the dynamics of modern culture with the internet and with AI, what is that doing to human dignity?
Well, AI, it's definitely something very unique in the history of technological advancement. One thing I think is important to keep in mind is it's not taking on its own consciousness, though. It's not like it's some new entity that has a mind of its own. It's still something that's very much created by human beings. It's the complex work of the human mind, and it's basically just like this really complex set of codes, algorithms, in order to achieve a result. It's like this technological internet hive mind that's putting together all these things.
Did you say hive mind?
Yes.
Perfect.
It's like
perfect.
Putting together this compilation of things to maybe get you some accurate results or not. I find sometimes Google AI Assistant, for example, it can be handy. ChatGPT, it can be handy, but it can also have factual inaccuracies. It can be incorrect, and especially like there's something about the beauty of what human beings can do with like art and creativity that AI isn't quite able to capture. There's something about the soul that's manifested when human beings create things. And for example, like storytelling and the power and the beauty of these types of works, I think that that's something distinctively human. As far as AI goes, the danger to me seems to be in the fact that we could become too reliant on it. We could stop learning to think for ourselves in many ways and have that creativity and inventiveness. I kind of think of it like this. Imagine you have a chart where human progress is going, and like the ingenuity, and then you reach a point where we become so dependent upon the creation and inventions that we've created, and then since we become so reliant on that, then progress and inventiveness starts to decline. And I think that becoming overly reliant, and then even being not able to tell the difference between something that's real and something that's AI, I find this very creepy online when you're like, oh, that's a cool photo, and you're like, oh wait, that's AI, that's not real, that's something that's just kind of generated and doesn't have that same authenticity as like a real photograph or something. But yeah, what are your thoughts on AI?
Well, I just want people to know that I'm actually speaking to an AI robot right now. No,
there we go.
Just kidding. No,
we're
real.
AI robot.
We're real. I can tell you, we're real. Yeah, what a great topic, and certainly it's not lost on me that there would be some irony of people such as priests or whatever going on the internet to tell people to get off the internet.
Yes.
That's so ironic. So what the church has taught and what we're guessing is we're going to be led by the new Holy Father is like a discernment.
Right.
And to be careful how any tool could be used or misused. Now, earlier, John Paul and I, we had a conversation, and I mentioned Terminator for people of my age. You haven't even seen the movie yet, right? But
right.
The idea of the machines taking over and
yes.
all of that. And evidently, some of the engineers who've been involved in the early development of different AI platforms are actually also warning about things. I guess for me, I'm often thinking about the spiritual side of things, and this is my impression thus far of the new Holy Father. Kind of like, could we have a conversation about what the things that are typical in modern culture, like what is it doing to people's humanity? You can imagine, on the one hand, the dark web and pornography and
right.
trafficking, there's that whole side of things, but also just like, even like, for example, my little brother's the principal of a Catholic school, and there's a conversation happening amongst educators. What is the internet doing to like the brains and the development of children?
Yes.
And like not so good, evidently. Some of the recent studies, it's not helping. You have also unprecedented amounts of mental health crisis and rates, and the effect of the way the phones and the apps have become so addictive, and evidently it was on purpose.
Yes.
And for me, like as a priest and as a shepherd, kind of like wondering, like, what is this doing to people? And then especially, what is it doing to their soul in terms of people finding it hard to pray and to concentrate? And,
right.
You growing up in a world where you're just completely flooded and bombarded by data and information. And then you can't really tell what's really true or not true, or what's real or not real, and what that may end up doing. And I wonder if there's this parallel between Pope Leo XIII and Rerum Novarum and the negative sides of the Industrial Revolution, and that we're maybe needing like a real timely conversation to kind of relook at how things have developed here in modern world. And so on that note, John Paul, I want to connect this idea to the shrine. So obviously we're here at the shrine, which is, kind of beautiful. And when Brother Pius and I got missioned to be chaplains here, we'd never done that before. So we begin just by praying to the Holy Spirit, like, show us the way. What does it mean to be chaplains at a shrine? And of course, there is a Vatican document on shrines, which we've been reading and kind of showing. And as I was studying that, I had this idea that connected to Lord of the Rings. So there, we're getting it in. Okay. So in the make-believe world of Middle Earth, J.R.R. Tolkien, who was a devout Catholic, you have either the movies or the books. Okay, I'm not going to comment on that. We don't want controversies, okay? But you have both. And there's an idea that you have this world where there's a lot of battles. There's a lot of war. It's kind of intense, and it's kind of, there's darkness and there's good and evil. And in the midst of that, there are a couple of places they call the realm of the elves. Rivendell with Elrond and Lothlorien with Galadriel. And if you go and you look at the passages that talk about these elven realms, it's almost like the idea of some sort of a sanctuary. Kind of like almost spiritual, although this is a make-believe story, but Tolkien said many elements of my Catholic faith kind of made its way into the story. And I kind of see shrines, our shrine here in particular, kind of like that. It's beautiful. It's a sanctuary. It's a place of healing and of rest.
Yes.
It's a place where you can get wise counsel. And especially for us as Catholics, you can maybe kind of turn off the noise of the world.
Yeah.
So we have 150 acres. It's absolutely gorgeous. And of course, just a couple of days ago, we had the great feast of Our Lady of Fatima. There was so many people here. And
Absolutely.
the beauty of this, the flowers, and we have the rosary garden. And I'm often encouraging people when they come here to turn the phone off.
Right.
And see if you can kind of calm down and get focused.
Yes.
And meditate and pray and to kind of breathe the fresh air. We're in the middle of the woods here. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of what you see in those elven realms in the story of Lord of the Rings. So I have been accused of being the resident Gandalf.
Absolutely.
Okay. Gandalf the Grey. Okay, guilty as charged. We wonder if Tolkien had St. Francis in mind with Gandalf or Radagast the Brown, one of the other wizards. But we have this kind of thing where, whether it be in your local parish church, certainly a lot of Catholic homes have a prayer corner or a prayer altar, but even the pilgrimage to shrines, obviously this shrine is one of those pilgrimage places for the Jubilee year.
Yes.
And that encouragement to maybe you do something a little different.
Yes.
To kind of spiritually pray and connect with the Lord. Kind of here, obviously, we're responding to the call of Our Lady of Fatima.
Definitely.
Where she said things like, prayer can stop war.
Yes.
Prayer and fasting, making sacrifices for the conversion of sinners.
Right.
And how hard that is for a lot of people who are distracted or just being bombarded by information.
Totally.
Not always bad things, but so there's this question: what is modern life and the internet? What is it doing to people?
Oh yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I think it's fascinating you used the analogy of an elven haven to the shrine. There's definitely so many similarities, especially our Eucharistic reparation weekend when we have adoration and we have lights lighting the walkways, and you can go out in the moonlight and the starlight and you just see the beauty of the landscape and the trees, and you're walking through. It really does feel kind of like Lothlorien or Rivendell. Our architecture, Our Lady's Mantle kind of reminds me of Rivendell. So I've definitely thought that, and I definitely agree with you as well that there's something so important about being immersed in reality. Reality as God created it, not as we created it in an artificial digital universe. And I think Tolkien is very key for understanding that. For example, he wrote The Lord of the Rings not as escapist literature, but as literature that you could go and then bring into your life and then see the beauty and mystery of your daily life more, because you've been inspired by his works to see more deeply into reality. You don't go back to the world and say, oh, now this is more boring. I'm kind of just lost. I wish I could go back into this fantasy land. The fantasy of Lord of the Rings brings you more deeply into reality. And I think that that's true for any good tool, for any medium that's truly working for our good. You can tell that the medium is good and that it's being used well when it allows us to enter real life more deeply. Carlo Acutis wanted to create the Eucharistic website about all these Eucharistic miracles, but he did it precisely so that people wouldn't stay online, so that they could go back into church and be in communion with our Lord. So I think great works of art, great works of literature, great films. I love filmmaking. All of these things, all these different elements, these mediums, these works of art, these modern tools, even the internet, they can all be used for good, but they have to be used in a way that allows us to enter more deeply into real life, into living in the present. We're a very incarnational religion. Christ became man, he took on flesh. There's something very important about the body and being embodied and being in the world. And when you're just on your phone, you become like a ghost. You're just kind of scrolling. You forget about your embodied nature. You're not entering deeply and being fully alive when you're just doom scrolling forever. Not that there's never good in going on the internet and being inspired or entertained by something, but it has to have limits. It has to be moderated, and it has to be used with the right intention and in the right spirit.
I so love what you're saying right there. And boy, John Paul, you just captured like the most perfect kind of quote there. Carlos Acutis, of course, that idea of the Eucharistic website, but in his writings, he did say, like, for the sake of actually going to a church or a shrine, to be in the presence of the actual real Blessed Sacrament. What a great model of like using the tools, but using them well for good. And on that note, a lot of young people were in Rome for the canonization of Blessed Carlo, but it didn't happen because the Pope died.
Right.
And yet they were there to witness the passing of Pope Francis and now the new Pope. And of course, have they announced a new date yet for the canonization of?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's sometime soon. It kind of reminds me in some ways, and this is going to be kind of funny. So we love Padre Pio here. He's the spiritual father of the Blue Army. And, he's on every coffee mug I have. But there is a famous quote from him calling the television the devil's tabernacle.
Sure.
And like you imagine people, how much time they waste in front of a TV or a screen.
Yeah.
And then that's somewhat complemented by like the Fatima saints, like Francisco would spend all that time in front of the tabernacle praying. And even like Mother Angelica of EWTN, who then ended up using television, but for the gospel, And so like the Catholic Church is, usually proceeds with the idea of let's discern and let's acknowledge, what could be hurtful or damaging or improper use versus a good, healthy, proper use. And I'm guessing that's probably the direction the new Pope is going to go, as he kind of offers his spiritual guidance as our spiritual father and not being afraid to kind of soberly evaluate kind of the trends that we're seeing and maybe what it's doing to people. But then offering a pathway forward. Obviously, we're even here right now using the internet to kind of get the message out. But I guess maybe just to kind of conclude, on our topic today, just a great encouragement for people. Obviously, you're going to use the internet, but to be discerning and to, how much time and like being careful about who you're actually listening to or how much time are you giving to who. There's a lot of nerds living in their parents' basement and out there pontificating about the church or the world. They're very popular with some people, but then also that call to reconnect with reality, which includes like getting to church, getting to shrines, having real relationships,
100%,
et cetera. So, and of course, you would know this better than most, like, we're starting this young adult movement out here and kind of you and your friends and kind of what we're hearing from young people and kind of what they'd like to would be helpful for them.
Right. Definitely. And I think that there's certainly a movement within the young adult community to move away from this over-reliance upon technology and to have real, authentic, in-person connection and communication and friendship. And there's something that's irreplaceable about that. And with the whole trend in the just explosion of social media and all these different avenues, I think my generation is really kind of waking up to the realities of the problems and how this doesn't bring true fulfillment, that it can be a tool, but that it also has so many dangers, and they're longing for that authentic, real connection. Because social media, just ultimately, if you just follow it to its logical conclusion with the way that the algorithms are designed to just keep you hooked on stuff, it doesn't lead to authentic connection and feeling like it leaves you feeling alone. So that's what we're trying to overcome by using it properly and putting things in their proper perspective.
Well said. Well, thank you, John Paul. Always a joy to be talking with you,
Likewise.
Getting your perspective. We just want to thank everyone for watching, listening. If you would do us the favor of subscribing or giving the thumbs up, or even if they put comments in the comment section, I think it helps the algorithm. And ironically, more people might have a chance to see kind of the content.
Yes. Donate at bluearmy.com or by clicking the link in the description. We rely on your help to keep our operations going here, to keep getting the good word out, to keep doing podcasts like this. So thank you for your generosity, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
God bless you.